This is a full story. Kitten wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. At the class reunion, my ex-wife noticed the engagement ring on my hand and teased, "Is your fiancé prettier than me?" Everyone egged me on, and I twisted the ring on my finger. She is indeed a bit prettier. My ex-wife's face darkened throughout the evening. As we were leaving, she blocked my way and snapped, "You chased me for 7 years, and now you're getting married just like that? What about me? What am I?" I gave a faint smile. "You were just a mistake from my past." At the reunion, the drinks kept flowing. Just as I was about to have another, Hailey covered my glass and said with concern, "Your stomach isn't good. Don't overdo it." The air suddenly froze. She seemed to have forgotten that we'd broken up a long time ago. Hailey and I had a complicated history. I fell for her at first sight during the university's opening ceremony. I started pursuing her intensely. I brought her breakfast, gave her brown sugar water during her period, and sent her roses on her birthday. I did everything she asked. Everyone knew Hailey had a devoted and patient guy chasing after her. Over time, she grew used to my presence. In our third year, I confessed to her for the 865th time. "Hailey, be my girlfriend," I said, holding a bouquet of flowers. Her expression was calm, unreadable. "Idiot," she said, taking the flowers. She didn't say yes, but she didn't refuse either. Given Hailey's ambiguous attitude, everyone assumed we were a couple. In our final year, Hailey's family faced a crisis. Her father, driving while exhausted, caused a fatal accident and owed 300,000 yuan in compensation. Her mother was ill and bedridden, with her family burdened by debt and no breadwinner left. I had just launched my own business and made some decent money. I rushed to Hailey's house with my bank card in hand. The front door was covered in graffiti, "A life for a life," and people spat as they passed by. I knocked, but the door wasn't locked. I went in and found Hailey sitting in the kitchen, staring blankly. I walked over, handed her the bank card, and hugged her tightly. "Don't be afraid. I'm here for you." Hailey looked at me, and for the first time, her vacant eyes showed some emotion. Her eyes filled with tears. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "Because I like you." Hailey was stunned. After a long pause, she said, "Rocky, let's date." After graduating, Hailey and I moved in together. I continued running my business, and with my help, Hailey started her own company, which was about to go public. Everything seemed to be heading in the right direction. One night, after we'd turned off the lights, Hailey suddenly asked, "Rocky, do you like kids?" "What, kids?" I paused for a moment before asking, "What about you? Do you like them?" "No, they're too noisy." "Oh, then we won't." But Hailey interrupted, "I want to have our child. We tried many times, but nothing happened." Hailey went to the hospital for a checkup and was diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome, infertility. During that time, she was often in low spirits. To cheer her up, I proposed marriage. She happily accepted. That night, she cried for a long time. She said, "Rocky, thank you for loving someone like me." On our anniversary, we went on a date. Halfway through the meal, Hailey became nauseous and kept vomiting. At the hospital, we found out she was 2 months pregnant. Hailey cried tears of joy and hugged me, saying, "Rocky, we're having a baby, our baby." I smiled and held her, full of things to say, but I didn't speak a word. To focus on her pregnancy, Hailey wanted to step back from work, but she couldn't find someone fully capable of taking over. That's when Tony appeared. He was a year below Hailey at university and had just graduated, but he was talented. Hailey made Tony her acting manager. He'd travel between the company and our home every day, updating Hailey on work and then relay her instructions to the company's leaders. Every time I came home after handling my business, Hailey would chatter about the day's work, always mentioning Tony. "He's hardworking and truly outstanding. Rocky, he's a talent. When I return to the company after the baby's born, you should consider poaching him to develop further." "Silly girl," I knocked her forehead. "That's your company's talent. Are you just going to hand him over?" "Yeah, Tony's clever. He'd save you a lot of effort. If you're less stressed, I'll feel more at ease." At the height of our love, Hailey and I couldn't get enough of each other. But soon, everything changed. I don't know when it started, but our conversations shifted. From planning our future to how impressive Tony was. "Tony's really smart. Tony's so thoughtful. He even remembered my period and brought me brown sugar water in advance. But he doesn't know, pregnant women don't have periods. Tony came by today to give a work report and made me fried rice. Who knew he could cook so well? Tony brought me a flower today. He said he saw it on his way here and thought it suited me. Tony invited me out this weekend. He said he wanted to thank me for all my guidance lately. The other day, while you were on a business trip, Tony and I were discussing work late into the night, so I let him stay over. Who knew he talks in his sleep? Such a contrast. Tony's birthday birthday is coming up. I want to get him a gift to thank him for his efforts recently. Tony, it was all about Tony. Hailey, can you stop talking about Tony? I said. She paused. Sorry, you're so busy with work. I shouldn't keep chatting with you. It's my fault for talking too much. No, that wasn't it. She didn't get it at all. Hailey, let's find someone else to take over. I don't like Tony. I laid it out plainly. Why? He's so excellent. You won't find another like him. What are you dissatisfied with? Besides, it's my company, my acting manager. What does it have to do with you? What does it have to do with me? I licked my lips bitterly. And what does it have to do with Tony? She was starting to shut me out because of Tony. Seeing I wasn't speaking, Hailey stroked her belly and let out a bitter laugh. Is it because I'm pregnant and we can't be intimate, so you've grown tired of me? I don't understand why Hailey thinks this way. I work harder than before, endure more than before. Isn't it all for her and the child's future happiness? I feel resentful and wronged. Can you wake up a little? I'm the child's father. I'm your husband. Tony is just an outsider. I shouted at her. Hailey seemed startled. She paused for a moment, then walked into the bedroom. With a bang, she shut the door and locked it swiftly. I stood there, staring blankly at the 2 movie tickets on the table. I felt as if somewhere it had also cracked. Hailey and I maintained a Cold War for almost a week. She didn't take the initiative to talk to me, even avoiding eating at the same table. At first, I did the same, but after a few days, I softened and tried to talk to her, but she ignored me and even mocked. Didn't you say I annoy you? The day before my business trip, she was still sulking with me. As I reached the door, I casually said, I'm leaving. Call me if you need anything. She blurted out, be safe on the road. But then she realized and turned around, casually grabbing the TV remote, adding, I was talking to the air. Oh, I nodded. I bought some fruit and honey in the fridge. You're home alone. Don't do the chores. I'll hire a cleaning lady. I'll be back in a few days. Despite our fight, I was still full of expectations when I returned from the business trip. I wondered what she would be doing at that moment. Would she be lying in bed reading a novel, or tinkering with various desserts in the kitchen, or lying on the couch telling stories to our unborn child? I imagined many possibilities, but never thought she would be playfully messing around with Tony. Tony must have said something funny. Hailey was laughing heartily, gently patting Tony's shoulder, saying, don't mess around. With her eyes crinkled in joy, Tony just stared at Hailey in silence, quietly tucking her loose hair behind her ear. I stood at the door with a pale face. When Hailey saw me, her smile vanished, replacing it with the angry look she wore before my trip. Back already? She said stiffly. Yeah, I'm back. Tony invited me out for dinner. I'll be going out soon, so just grab something to eat. If you don't want to cook, I can pack some leftovers for you later. No need, I replied, using the last bit of strength. Before Tony left, he greeted me and then took Hailey away. I stared at the empty house, feeling frustrated. What did I do wrong? What is happening? Everything was fine before. We loved each other sincerely. Could love really vanish? I felt so tired. I wanted to let go. Sighing, I made a bowl of instant noodles. I thought we needed to talk things over. When Hailey returned, I poured her a cup of honey water. Hailey, I have something to tell you. I'm a bit tired. Let's talk tomorrow. I think we need to clarify this matter early. It won't take much of your time. Hailey impatiently put down the cup. Can't you consider my feelings? I walked a lot today. I'm already very tired. Hailey, Rocky, Hailey interrupted. Can you stop being so unreasonable? I don't know what's going on with you lately, whether it's too much pressure or not enough love. You always lose your temper with me, even ignoring me, and now you suddenly want to talk. What do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about divorce? Want to discuss custody of the child in my belly? Rocky, don't you see that our life is already in chaos? I looked at Hailey in disbelief. Hailey, what do you think of our marriage now? Hailey didn't respond. She only said, Rocky, we both need to calm down. A few more days passed, and our relationship worsened. One day at dinner, Hailey lightly told me, Tony confessed to me. My chopsticks froze in midair. The food I was holding fell onto the table. How did you reply? I don't know. She shook her head. My mind is all jumbled. Rocky, I'm afraid if I refuse directly, it'll hurt Tony, but I can't let go of you and the baby. Her voice grew quieter until it was inaudible. Seeing Hailey staring down in silence, I couldn't help but lose my temper at her. Hailey, do you still want to live a good life? I slammed my chopsticks on the table, questioning her. Hailey was taken aback. After a moment, she stood up, slamming her hands on the table. Why are you yelling for no reason? You mention Tony every day, and now he's confessed to you. Why are you still worried about hurting him? Who the hell is your husband? Rocky, are you out of your mind? It's true that he confessed to me, but what does that have to do with me? I hired him as an agent. It's work-related. I've mentioned his name a few times. What's wrong with that? Do you really have to make such a big deal out of it? You're dating him, eating with him, watching movies with him, and fooling around on the couch. You keep indulging him. Hailey, are you really brave enough to lie with your eyes wide open? You call this work? Let me ask you, is this really work? Rocky, Hailey shouted my name. Don't you trust me? How can I trust you? We were at a standstill when the door suddenly creaked open. Tony stood at the door, glancing at me and Hailey. What's going on? I sneered, pointing at Tony, asking Hailey, did you give him a spare key too? Hailey, you really are something. Hailey, exhausted, swept her hair up, sighing heavily. Rocky, I don't understand. Back in college, you pursued me relentlessly, even helping my ambiguous boyfriend buy breakfast and deliver running shoes without complaint for 3 years. Now it's just a key. It doesn't imply anything, but why do you have to magnify it? I don't understand. Do you have to argue with me to feel secure? Hailey, search your conscience and tell me, is this really just about a key? Hailey fell silent. At that moment, Tony spoke up. Rocky, don't blame Hailey. It's all my fault. I like Hailey. I pursued her. Sorry, it's my problem. Tony apologized to me 3 times and even bowed, then ran out the door. Tony, Hailey tried to hold him back, chasing him to the door. I stopped her. If you walk out that door today, we will really never go back. Rocky, don't force me. Choose between me and the child or Tony. I asked her again. Tears streamed down her face. She cried as painfully as when I found her in her kitchen during our senior year. Hailey touched her belly, saying to me, I'm sorry, Rocky. But Hailey still walked away. In the end, the empty house was left with only me, lonely and solitary, alone. I languished in the house for a week, then sold the apartment we shared. Tony accompanied Hailey to the Civil Affairs Bureau, and we officially filed for divorce. After that, I didn't contact Hailey. I only heard from old classmates that Hailey sold her company's shares at Tony's suggestion and flew abroad with him. Our only child was also, due to Tony's urging, lost on the cold operating table. Coming back to her senses, Hailey realized her actions had crossed a line and fell silent. Oh, just this once, come on. The class leader broke the awkwardness with a smile. It's an old classmates reunion. Drink to your hearts. Content, come on. Fill up. Fill up. Peter chimed in, teasing, our class beauty is still kind-hearted and beautiful, huh? Hailey looked at her old classmates and smiled helplessly. You all love flattering me, but I might take it seriously. Haha, don't be so modest. Everyone knows you're famous for your beauty, Hailey. Exactly. Remember back then, you had Rocky totally smitten, and he said he'd marry no one but you. Jack, already tipsy, chimed in. The atmosphere, which had just calmed down, instantly froze. The class leader clicked his tongue, patted Jack on the shoulder, signaling him to keep quiet. I silently downed a glass of wine and nonchalantly said, it's all in the past. Hailey was stunned for a moment, then bitterly smiled. Yes, it's all in the past. Perhaps to ease the awkward atmosphere, Hailey started casually, chatting with me. Hey, Rocky, that simple ring on your hand looks nice, but it seems like you're wearing it on the wrong finger. The class leader coughed twice, but Hailey, clueless, pointed at her own right middle finger, still smiling. The left hand has a special meaning. It should be worn on the right hand. Look at you, still as careless as ever. I lowered my head, gently stroking the ring, and smiled. It's not wrong. I'm engaged. Hailey looked at me in disbelief, her eyes, usually calm and serene, now filled with complicated emotions. The class leader clapped his hands, pointing at me and tooting, now, Rocky, that's on you. Even though our class beauty flew abroad for a while, you could have at least called to share the good news. Leaving out an old classmate like that, really not cool. Calling to share the good news? After she announced her relationship with Tony, he said he felt unsafe keeping my contact. Just like that, years of connection ended with her, blocking me, cutting ties completely. Even if I wanted to share the news, how could I? Those days were hectic, running between families. I didn't have time, and later I got caught up in other things and forgot. My bad, that's on me. I'll drink to that. I smiled. With that, I poured myself a glass of wine and downed it in one go. Hailey snapped out of her daze, her lips twitching as she tried to force a smile, but that smile was so forced, it looked worse than crying. Rocky, that's really unfair of you. So sudden, I haven't even met your girlfriend yet. Jack, still tipsy, muttered with a cigarette between his lips. Girlfriend? You mean fiancé now? Yes, Jack's right. I haven't met your fiancé yet. Hailey gripped her wine glass and took a big gulp. She continued, what does your fiancé look like? What's her type? What's her personality like? How tall is she? Is she local? Finally, she added, is she prettier than me? The class leader, seeing Hailey joking around, thought she had completely moved on and no longer avoided the topic of my fiancé. To be honest, Serena's not any less pretty than you. Yeah, tall, oval-faced, as gentle as water. I heard she's in design or something. Anyway, she's quite impressive. Hey, Rocky should bring her out to meet us sometime. Hailey forced a stiff smile. Really that pretty? She's actually a bit prettier than you, I said, spinning the ring on my finger, smiling. Oh, well, you're pretty lucky then, Hailey said quietly. Yeah, what about you? How are things with Tony? Any plans to get married soon? I casually asked. Yeah, Hailey, us women, the sooner you settle down, the sooner you can. Feel secure. The class leader sighed. Hailey fiddled with her fingers. Still thinking about it. After a few more rounds of drinks, the evening wore on and the party came to an end. After everyone left, I went to the parking lot to call for a designated driver when Hailey blocked my way. Have you been doing well these past few years? She asked me. I've been good. Sometimes I dream about the days we used to have. What's past is past. Rocky, do you have to be this cold to me? To be honest, I couldn't quite understand Hailey's behavior right now. She has a boyfriend. I have a fiancé. It's late at night, isn't it? Normal to avoid suspicion? Is this cold? Are you really planning to spend the rest of your life with someone else? Hailey was growing anxious as I stayed silent. She grabbed my arm, her eyes reddening, almost hysterically questioning me. Rocky, you spent 7 years chasing me and now you're getting married just like that? What about me? What am I supposed to do? I shook off her hand and smiled faintly. You're just a mistake I made. In the past, Hailey's body trembled violently. Her lips quivered, her throat tightened, as if she wanted to say something, but no words came out. I ignored Hailey. Just then, the driver arrived and I got in the car and left. The next evening, when I returned home, I found Hailey there too. You're back. Serena walked over, helping me with my coat. I ran into Hailey on my way home. She said she's your old classmate, so I invited her over. I looked at Hailey, who also glanced back at me, smiling with undisguised intent. Serena put on her apron and headed to the kitchen. I'll whip up a few dishes. You two catch up. In the living room, only Hailey and I remained. I pulled Hailey to the entryway, lowering my voice. What exactly are you trying to do? Hailey smiled. What, embarrassed about your ex-wife? Hailey, yelling at me? Rocky, you're still the same. Hailey pushed me away, sat back down on the sofa, and continued, we were happy once, weren't we? By the way, does Serena know you've been married before? I clenched my fists. Hailey, didn't you give up your career, abort your baby, and choose to be with Tony? Isn't your life with him enough? Why? Are you still coming back to mess with me? Did I owe you something in a past life? Hailey didn't respond. Her eyes drifted toward the kitchen, just as Serena walked into the living room. I just remembered we have some cakes left in the fridge. Serena brought out some dessert, handing one to Hailey and one to me. Hailey, try this. I buy from this place often. It's really good. Thanks, Serena. Hailey smiled at her. Rocky, no sneaking bites, Serena said to me, squinting with a smile. Your stomach isn't great. The cake's a bit cold, so wait a bit before eating. At the dinner table, Serena and Hailey chatted for a long time. Stop chatting, it's late. Hailey should head back, or else her boyfriend will get worried, right? I looked at Hailey, implying I wanted her to leave. However, Hailey had no intention of leaving. She held Serena's hand. No need to rush. I'm single right now, so it's fine to stay a bit longer. I feel such a connection with Serena. I just want to keep talking. Hailey, you're so amazing. Don't you plan to find a boyfriend? Or are you against marriage? No. Hailey shook her head. I had a boyfriend before, but we broke up. Before that, I was married, but we got divorced. Hailey glanced at me provocatively. I see. Well, I guess you just haven't found the right person yet. Serena patted Hailey's shoulder comfortingly. Serena, you've clearly found the right person. Rocky is wonderful. Yes, Rocky treats me very well. I love him a lot. You two really seem like you're in love. Haha, actually, we sometimes argue over little things, but that's life, right? You compromise, have more love and tolerance, and there's nothing you can't get through. Is that so? I once had a fight with my ex-husband, and he just left me. How could that happen? Pretty terrible, right? And now he's about to get married, leaving me alone to think about him every day and losing sleep. Hailey, I couldn't listen anymore and stood up, cutting her off. Serena looked at me, confused. What's wrong? Hailey should be heading home, I explained. It's not safe for a girl to walk alone at night. You're right, Serena nodded. Rocky, why don't you walk Hailey out? Downstairs, Hailey looked at me with determination. Rocky, I'm more suited for you than Serena. Leave. Hailey hesitated, then moved closer to me and whispered, if you push me away, you'll regret it later. Do you think you're some treasure that everyone likes? Hailey, stop flattering yourself, will you? I pushed her away. You're unhappy, so now you want to ruin my life too? Tony broke up with you, so you want to stir things up between me and Serena? How could you think that of me? Hailey frowned, tugging on my sleeve with a pleading voice. Rocky, I came back because I couldn't let go of you. I've been missing you. Could you hug me? Can we start over? I'll be the perfect wife, 1,000 times better than Serena. Rocky, I beg you, you're all I have left. Please don't leave me. I could hardly hear what Hailey was saying anymore. I just felt exhausted being around her. Even just talking for a few minutes, sharing the same air, made it hard to breathe. I pulled my sleeve out of her grip and asked, Hailey, don't you have any self-respect? Hailey frowned, looking at me in disbelief. After a long pause, she screamed, yes, I have no self-respect. But what about you? What makes you, Rocky, any better than me? You're about to marry Serena, but you don't even dare to tell her you've been divorced. Rocky, we're two of a kind, aren't we? Ha ha ha, Rocky, we're meant to be together. I stood frozen. I hadn't told Serena about Hailey because I felt my past with her wasn't worth mentioning. It was something I wanted to forget. I had locked those memories away as they were the most unbearable moments of my life. I had even tried to numb myself to forget Hailey altogether, but now I realized I couldn't keep hiding it. I had to tell Serena the truth. I ignored Hailey and, after walking her out of the neighborhood, went straight home. That night, I lay in bed next to Serena. In the dark room, only the sound of our breathing remained. Serena, are you still awake? Not yet. I have something to tell you. What is it? Serena rested her head on my chest. I've actually been married before, and we had a child. What happened to the child? The child was never born. It was lost before birth. That must have hurt a lot, Serena said softly. A brief silence followed. We held each other close. I continued, my ex-wife is Hailey. Serena was silent. After a few seconds, she said, I guessed as much. You. Serena turned over and hugged me tightly. Rocky, let the past stay in the past. People need to look forward. What happened before doesn't matter. I'm happy now, and I think you are too. That's enough, isn't it? Serena. I held her tightly. At that moment, all the words I wanted to say were expressed in a silent embrace. Serena gently stroked my face with her fingers. Rocky, I have something to tell you too. Go ahead. I'm pregnant. At that moment, time seemed to stand still. I'm going to be a father? Yes, you're going to be a father, Serena smiled. Mr. Rocky, are you ready to welcome this new life? Overjoyed, I hugged Serena tightly and kissed her hair. This is wonderful, Serena. We're going to have a baby. It was the weekend, and Serena was planning to visit her parents. She said she wanted to chat with them and share the news about her pregnancy. I felt uneasy and insisted on going with her, but she shook her head. Don't you have to work this weekend? Don't worry, I can go alone. I don't want to be a burden to you. After Serena left, I went to the office to handle some work. I was so busy that I lost track of time. By the time I was ready to go home, I realized it was already 10 p.m. As I packed my things, I heard footsteps. At this hour, could someone still be here? I looked up and saw Hailey standing there. You've been working until now, right? You probably haven't had dinner yet. I brought you some pizza from that place near the experimental school, the one you used to like. Hailey opened the box and placed the pizza in front of me. I don't need it. Serena is waiting for me at home, I said, putting on my jacket, ready to leave. Don't lie to me. I saw Serena leave this afternoon. Have you been watching her? I questioned Hailey. So what if I have? Feeling guilty? Hailey scoffed and then pleaded, Rocky, just take one bite, please. With a sigh, I took out some cash from my pocket and stuffed it into her hand. Consider it paid. Now leave. Why? Why do you keep pushing me away? Hailey grabbed my hand, her nails digging into my skin. Do you really love Serena that much? What is she compared to me? Rocky, we've been together for 7 years. Can you really let that go? Let Serena leave, and we can be together. I don't care that you were with her. I only care about you, Rocky. Hailey had nearly lost her mind. I didn't want to engage with her anymore and tried to reason. Hailey, let it go. Move on with your life. It's the best thing you can do. But I can't let go. Rocky, I still love you. I couldn't stop thinking about you even when I was with Tony. Even when we were in bed, my mind was filled with you. Rocky, you were the one who pursued me first. You can't just leave me now. That's not fair. Hailey, you're seriously ill, I sighed. Go home. Let's not see each other again. And don't go near Serena. If you keep crossing the line and disturbing me and my loved ones, I'll call the police. Hailey's body trembled. She let go of my hand and stared at me blankly, then laughed bitterly. Rocky, you really are heartless. Compared to you, I'm still far from that, I replied. Fine, very well. Tears welled up in Hailey's eyes, and her lips quivered. I heard you took over my company shortly after I went abroad. I want to visit it one last time. If you grant me this, I won't bother you anymore. Honestly, I wasn't keen on the idea. Half of the effort in building Hailey's company was mine. When her company went public, I invested a lot, which is why I ended up acquiring it. I didn't want her to see how the company had thrived under my leadership and start to feel nostalgic. But after thinking it over, I realized it was better to avoid trouble. So, I agreed. We set a time, and Hailey decided on the following Friday. I agreed. The week flew by, and on the scheduled day, I waited for Hailey outside the office building. She was wearing the same business suit I had bought her 7 years ago. The fabric was neatly pressed, but you could tell it was old and worn. After all, it had been 7 years. The style was outdated, and the material wasn't as crisp as what we use now. Hailey smiled slightly and asked, "Does it look good? You picked it out for me. I've kept it all this time." I ignored her comment and turned towards the lobby. "Come on in." I showed Hailey around the company, introducing her to each department and some of the deals I had made since taking over. Hailey ran her fingers along the leather chair in my office, sighing, "It's really nothing like it was before." "Yes, the company has grown and matured," I said. "Rocky, thank you for managing Galaxy Industries. I built this company from the ground up, and it holds both my hard work and our memories." Her words annoyed me. "Don't get it twisted. This is my company, not something I'm managing for you. And it's no longer called Galaxy Industries, right?" "You're absolutely correct," Hailey said with a forced smile. "Feelings don't lie. Rocky, the fact that you bought Galaxy Industries proves that you still have feelings for me. You're overthinking it. I'm just a businessman." After the tour, I led Hailey out of the building, only to run into Serena. "Hailey," Serena greeted her, then turned to me. "Shall we go?" "Go? Where?" I asked, confused. "Didn't you say you were taking Hailey out for dinner and that I should come along? Hailey told me to meet you both here at the office." I glared at Hailey furiously. Hailey smiled triumphantly, linking her arm with Serena's. "Rocky must have been too busy and forgot to tell you." "Serena, don't be mad at him. The restaurant is already booked. Let's go." At dinner, Hailey kept putting food on Serena's plate. "Hailey, don't just serve me. You should eat too," Serena said politely. "It's fine, Serena. You should eat more. You're so skinny. If I didn't know better, I'd think Rocky wasn't treating you well." Hailey laughed and then put food on my plate. "Rocky, here's something you love." "This meal is on me," Hailey smiled slyly. "Rocky and I are treating you. Serena, you can't leave until you're full." Serena noticed the implication in Hailey's tone. She nodded and stayed quiet. "Hailey, haven't you had enough?" I couldn't hold back anymore, setting my chopsticks down. "Rocky, what's the matter? You're scaring Serena," Hailey teased as she put more food on Serena's plate. "Serena, don't worry about it. Rocky has always been hot-headed." Serena pursed her lips and spoke softly. "Hailey, was this dinner your idea?" Didn't I say earlier that Rocky and I were treating you?" "No, you didn't." "Hailey, leave," I shouted, unable to take it any longer. I couldn't believe someone could be so shameless. I didn't want her around for another second. Serena gently tugged my sleeve, calming me down. Then she turned to Hailey. "Hailey, did you invite us here because you have something to say?" "Yes, actually, there is something," Hailey replied, pretending to think for a moment. "Serena, do you remember I once mentioned my ex-husband to you?" "I remember." Serena's expression darkened. "I want to get back together with him. What do you think?" "Well, that depends on both parties' willingness." Serena lowered her gaze, looking disappointed. "That's good to hear." Hailey nodded with satisfaction and smiled. "Serena, I haven't told you this before, but my ex-husband is Rocky." "Yes, I know," Serena replied. Hailey didn't expect such a reply. She stared at Serena with wide eyes. "You know?" "Yes, I know. You actually know." After a moment of surprise, Hailey burst into laughter. Suddenly, when we were off guard, Hailey grabbed Serena's neck. "You slut. Since you knew Rocky was my ex-husband, why did you still cling to him? You're just a mistress stealing someone else's husband. You've bewitched Rocky, making him so obsessed with you that he won't even look at me. If only you were dead, Rocky would come back to me." "Hailey, are you insane?" I rushed forward and pried Hailey's fingers off, pulling Serena into my arms. Serena rubbed her neck, coughing a couple of times, her eyes red. "Hailey, I don't know what past you and Rocky shared, but since you're divorced and Rocky and I have built a new family, there's no possibility left for you and him. Rocky is mine. We are happy now, and I love him very much. Please stop interfering with our lives." It's not me interfering with him. Rocky loves me. You're the one who came between us. You ruined our relationship, and now you're spewing all this nonsense." Hailey had completely lost it. She looked at me, desperate and pleading. "Rocky, you love me, don't you? Leave Serena, and let's be together again, okay? Hailey, stop indulging in these delusions, will you?" I looked down at her from above. "You make me sick." No, this isn't how it's supposed to be. If you didn't love me, why did you chase after me before? If you didn't love me, why did you marry me? Rocky, it's been 7 years. How can you just stop loving me? How can you leave me when I need you so much? I chuckled coldly. Do you really not understand why I left? You cheated, Hailey. You had a change of heart. Isn't that easy enough to understand? No, Rocky, listen to me. That's not it. I never stopped loving you. I've always only loved you. Look, didn't I leave Tony and come back to you? You think I don't know? Jack told me everything. You left Tony and returned because Tony found someone else abroad. You two had a huge fallout, and he kicked you out. Isn't that right? It's true that Tony and I broke up, but my feelings for you are real. I can't believe it. After 7 years, you're really saying it's over? Rocky, you still love me, don't you? You still care about me, don't you? I'm still in your heart. Hailey walked toward me, trying to hold my hand. I pushed her away. Get lost. As far as I'm concerned, Hailey died 7 years ago. No, it can't be. Rocky, you can't do this to me. I'm Hailey, you're Hailey. Tears welled up in her eyes. At this moment, she was caught between love and hatred, unable to let go but unable to move on. This farce finally ended with the police's arrival. Thankfully, I had called the police right after Hailey grabbed Serena's neck. Otherwise, with Hailey's deranged state, I really couldn't predict what she might have done. On the way back, I asked Serena, since you knew Hailey was my ex-wife, you must also have known what kind of person she is. Why did you still attend the dinner? We were lucky today, but what if we weren't? I knew this dinner couldn't be anything good, but Hailey said over the phone, if I didn't go, it would just be you two eating alone. Seeing Serena's aggrieved expression, all my frustration disappeared. I patted her head. How could that happen? Even if you didn't go, I wouldn't have had dinner alone with her, but I was afraid. You know, when Hailey said she wanted to reconcile with you, I was really scared. I was afraid you still had feelings for her. If that were the case, I wouldn't be able to keep you, but I couldn't just give up either. As Serena spoke, tears started streaming down her face. I wiped her tears away. Watching you at the table, so composed and confident, I thought you were totally in control. But what were you thinking? If I really agreed to reconcile with Hailey, would you have let go? What about the baby? What about yourself? I don't know. I still want to be with you, but I don't want to be selfish. You're silly. I pulled Serena into my arms. From now on, share everything with me. Don't bear it all alone. Didn't you say before, marriage is about the simple things, like food and shelter? If we keep secrets, how can we be honest with each other? Serena sobbed but smiled. Okay. After we got home, the police notified me that Hailey had been officially detained. Even in custody, she was still acting out, even cursing at the police. She was eventually sent to the hospital for a checkup, and the doctor diagnosed her with severe depression and anxiety. After that, I never saw Hailey again. Jack told me she'd gone back to Tony, begging for reconciliation, but Tony had never taken their relationship seriously in the first place, and now that he was doing well abroad, there was no way he would agree to start over with her. Hailey, with nowhere else to go, spent some time in Hong Kong. At the next class reunion, Hailey didn't show up. Eventually, everyone lost contact with her. She faded away, forgotten in our memories. The end. If you like Kitten's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.